Hello everybody, I would like to welcome you to this lesson titled Addition and Subtraction Equations. And the goal for this lesson is for you to solve equations that contain addition and subtraction. Now what you'll need to do is get out your Go Math book and turn to page 303. Get out your math journal, pencil, and also a calculator could be helpful as well. Now before we get into today's lesson, we want to go over a few things that we talked about yesterday, the previous lesson. So talking about what is an equation. An equation is a mathematical statement that two expressions are equal. So we're taking a look at an equation here. 5 plus 4 equals 9. You can see the relationship of 5 and 4 is also equal to 9 when you add them together. Also, an equation may or may not contain variables. Understand that. And also for an equation that has a variable, a solution of the equation is the value of the variable that makes the equation true. Okay, so we can see if we're taking a look at this problem here, the solution would be 5 because that would make that equation true. So what we're going to be doing, we're going to take a look at these equations and we're going to try to find the solution to them. In other words, we're going to try to find the value of that variable to make this equation true. Now we're going to take a look at using subtraction to solve equations and also using addition to solve equations. And the rule that we're going to look at is the subtraction property of equality. And what that says is you can subtract the same number from both sides of an equation and the two sides will remain equal. Okay, so when do we use this? When an equation contains addition, you solve by subtracting the same number from both sides. So let me show you how to set this up. And this is how I want you to set this up as well. Even though you may be able to do this in your head, it is very important that you set it up this way. Now, we have a plus 15 equals 26. Now to solve a or find the solution, what you want to do, you want to take the inverse operation, okay? Inverse operation of addition is subtraction. So that means I'm going to subtract 15 from the left side of my equation. And since it's subtraction property of equality, we got to subtract from both sides. So 15 minus 15 cancels out the 15. That means we're just left with a. And then 26 minus 15 is 11. So what that means is a equals 11. So the solution to this problem is 11. So in other words, if I plug in 11 for my variable, that gives a solution to this equation. So that's what it looks like using the subtraction property of equality. Let me show you addition property of equality. Same idea, except we're using addition for both sides of the equation. So when we add the same number to the left and right side of the equation, the two sides will remain equal. So now what I do for this one, y minus 21 equals 18. What I do is I add 21. I take the inverse operation. In other words, it's the opposite of subtraction is addition. So I add 21 to the left side of my equation. I'm going to add 21 to the right side. Think about combining negative 21 and positive 21. That eliminates the 21 altogether. So now we're left with y. Drop down our equal sign. 1 and 8 is 9. 1 and 2 is 3 for 39. So we could see that y equals 39. In other words, the solution of this problem is 39. So when we plug in 39 for our variable, that will give us the correct answer for the value of 39 there. I'm sorry, for the value of y. So we're going to take a look at a couple of these problems, and these problems are located right on page 308. I apologize for that. I had a hard time finding it there for a second. So what we have here is we have solve each equation, graph the solution, on a number line. So we're just taking a little bit step further and we're graphing the solution. So what we have for number 2, let's write this out together. You can use your Go Math book. I'm sorry, use your math journal for this. Now again, the equal sign is on the left. The problem that we would normally see is on the right. No big deal at all. Okay. We're going to use the addition property of equality. So since it's x minus 3, we're going to add 3 to the right side and also 3 to the left side. And that's going to give us our value of x. So combining negative 3 and positive 3, that cancels out 3 altogether. So we just have x remaining. 2 plus 3, not too difficult at all, gives us 5. Okay, so the idea of this, or the solution, 2 equals 5 minus 3. Okay, or you could think about it this way, 5 minus 3 equals 2. Now remember, we got to graph this value, so x, x equals 5, and then what we do is we just take a look at our graph here on the number line. So we plot our number right on the number line just like that. All right, let's take a look at the next one and let's do this together. So first step is writing it out. You have to write this out. Very important to do that. S plus 12.5 equals 14. So what we're going to do, since it's an addition problem, we're going to use the subtraction property of equality. Subtract 12.5 from both sides. So we have positive 12.5, negative 12.5. That cancels itself out. So we just have s. And then we can add our decimal point in the 0. So that's going to give me 1.5. So s equals 1.5. So what we do for this is we graph it on our number line. So since it's 1.5, we go between the 1 and the 2, and we graph it just like that. Now, one other one I wanted to go over with you on this page is number 6. Just because it's a fraction does not mean we do anything different. It's the same idea. So what we have here is n plus 1/2 equals 7/4. Now what we need to do, we need to find the value of n. In other words, what plus 1/2 is going to give us 7/4. So again, subtraction property of equality. So we're going to subtract 1/2 from both sides. Now you can't take 1/2 from 7/4, so you got to find a common denominator, which is going to be 4. So we take 7/4, that stays the same. That 1/2 is going to equal 2/4 now. Again, kind of further down here. So we'll drop our n down to figure out the value of n. So we have 7/4 minus 2/4. Remember, the only thing you worry about with subtraction of fractions is the numerator. 7 minus 2 is 5/4. So n equals 5/4 for number 6. So that means 5/4 plus 1/2 equals 7/4 for that problem. Now, couple other things we're going to look at is not only just solving these algebraic expressions or finding the value of the variable. We're also going to look at how to write a real-world problem whenever we take a look at an equation. Okay, so let's say, for example, and this is right on page 307 in your Go Math book, and they spell this out very nicely for you. Now we can see that it says write a real-world problem for the equation of 21 and 79/100 plus x equals 25. Okay, so whenever you're doing this, you want to examine each part of the equation like it says in the book. We know that x, or the variable, is the unknown or quantity we are looking for. And we know with this problem that 21 and 79/100 is added to X, and that gives us 25. Okay, so something that we would need to do is think about a real world situation that involves adding two quantities or two amounts. So for example, Joshua, who happens to be my brother, wants to buy his mother flowers and a card for Mother's Day. Joshua has $25 to spend and selects roses for $21.79. How much can he spend on a card? Okay, so that means you're thinking about $21.79 for roses, and the amount that we do not know is X. That's the value of the card. Well, we know he has $25 total. Okay, so whenever you think about the total amount, usually that's going to be the right side of the equal sign there. Okay, so in other words, to solve this equation, we would take that 21 and 79/100 plus a certain amount is going to equal 25. You can see they did the subtraction property of equality. And then we can see that Josh has $3.21 left to spend on a Mother's Day card. Okay, so this is an example of how you write a real world problem for an equation. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn our books at page 309. We're going to look at some real world problems, set up the equation, and then solve the equation. Okay, now for number 10, it says a wildlife reserve has 8 elephant calves born during the summer and now has 31 total elephants. Okay, so think about that total. How many elephants were in the reserve before summer began? So again, 31 total elephants. So right away we see that something is going to be equal to 31. Now we know that they had 8 calf elephants born during the summer. And the quantity or the amount that we do not know is how many elephants were in the reserve before summer began. Now, they don't tell you to use any variable at all. So it is wide open for the variable that you would like to use. So some people may use X, you may use E, you may use A. Any letter of the alphabet would be completely fine. Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use E. So in other words, this problem would be E. That's the amount of elephants in the reserve before summer began, and they added 8 elephants. Why do we know they added 8 elephants? Because they were born during the summer. Now, for example, if they were to say that 8 elephants died during the summer, we would have to subtract that. But since 8 were born, that's why I'm adding it. Now, thinking about how many elephants were in the reserve before summer began, so this is our equation. Now what we do, we just set it up. E plus 8 equals 31. Since it's an addition problem, I do the subtraction property of equality. Subtract on both sides of the equation. That eliminates the 8. We bring down our E. 31 minus 8 is 23. Okay, and so we can see the answer. How many elephants were in the reserve before the summer began? 23 elephants. Okay, again, we can plug in 23 for E, so we know that 23 plus 8 is 31. You can even do that on your calculator. It's a great way to check your work to see if your solution is correct. So let's take a look at this final one. It says, my sister is 14 years old. It says, my brother says that his age minus 12 is equal to my sister's age. How old is my brother? Now, whenever we're trying to figure out and writing an equation, we got to figure out what we know already. So we know that 14 years old, we know that his age minus 12. Okay, so those are the two numbers that we know. What we do not know is how old is my brother. Okay, so a couple things that help us out here. So it says my sister's age is 14 years old, and it says my brother's age says that his age minus 12 is equal to my sister's age. So that means it's saying it's equal to my sister's age, which is 14 years old. So that means put the equal sign with 14 there. And it says, my brother says at his age minus 12. We don't know how old the brother is. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take B minus 12. Where am I getting B from? That's going to represent the brother's age. Why am I minusing 12 or subtracting 12? Because it says my brother says that his age, this is the age, minus 12 is equal to 14 years old here. Okay, so this is our equation. B minus 12 equals 14. Now a way to set this up, or to solve the equation, I should say, just as simple as B minus 12 equals 14. We do the addition property of equality. Negative 12, positive 12 eliminates 12 altogether. We have B equals, and then we have 14 plus 12 is 26. So how old is the brother? 26 years old. So in other words, if we were to plug in 26 for B, 26 minus 12 would give us 14. Now that concludes the video on addition and subtraction equations. If you have any questions about this concept, please come and see me.